Coach, it's been announced that naturally that McKee will be a Friday starter for the second year in a row. Patel on Saturday. I understand you were meeting to try to decide who your Sunday starter was going to be. Have you reached that decision, and what went into the decision?
Yeah, I think it's well documented. We're pretty deep on both sides of the ball. I think on the pitching side, we've definitely landed on who probably the 8 best candidates are to get lengthened out. And we've told them that early in the season, what we view as a starter, maybe a starter that's throwing in a 2-2 game in the 6th inning. It might be a guy that's starting the game off for us. These decisions don't come lightly. And I think we know that if you looked at our lineup opening day last year, offensively, for instance, I think Hernandez hit 7th. We told guys the other day the emergence of their roles in week 1. But yeah, we're going to open up with Tate McKee on Friday. We're going to have Mason Patel definitely earned a spot in the weekend rotation and go with him Saturday. And then we're going to have freshman Cooper Underwood start for us on Sunday. And I'm excited for a lot of reasons. Those 3 guys have done everything we've asked of them. I think, really proud of the work that Coach Taylor and Coach Richmond have put in to the offseason throwing programs with guys. They're really intentional about whatever we saw out of them in the fall. We're going to ask him to take steps forward. Cooper's a guy that, just like Charlie Wilcox as freshman and even Jamie Vicens, they've all stepped in and I would be comfortable saying that any of those guys are a weekend starter for us, even on an opening weekend against a good Bowling Green team. Cooper's the guy that down the stretch, we felt really comfortable from a performance side. And then some of his process data, it's undeniable when you look at it that he's one of our best arms. That on the outside looking in, you have, like I mentioned, you have Wilcox, you have Blakely, you have Shattuck, you have Loy, you have guys that are going to throw in high leverage spots. And so, all those guys are going to be available Friday. And so we'll just see kind of how the weekend plays out. But one thing that we do like to do is extend guys out of the gates. I think the frequency of bullpen appearances early is something that can hamstring you later on in the season. But those are the 3 guys we're running out there. We're proud of them. And I think, if you ask our hitters, who they like to face and don't like to face, those, like I mentioned, those 7 or 8 guys all would get votes in a different area. So that's where we're going to go to start.
Sir. Preseason last few weeks, how health-wise, how are you going in the season? I know there's sometimes some nagging injuries or anything. Health-wise, how healthy is the team going in the first series?
Yeah, knock on wood, you sit here and we're really fortunate. I do think we controlled all the controllables on the injury side, which is, just pitch counts and ups and downs and positionally, you have to monitor the soft tissue stuff early in the season. It's I know it's talking about guys' health situations, it's right now we have a clean sheet. Almost uncomfortably so, of everybody's full participation in practice on the mound. And once again, our players are so mature with the way that their pregame routines, their pre-practices, they're here hours in advance of a cage or a bullpen opening. They're here on their days off doing what they need to do. Just they like to be in here. They like to foam roll, or they like to sit on a massage chair, or whatever it is. So no, we're really healthy. And, at the end of the day, you want the stress as a head coach and as a coaching staff of saying all the options are available. And that's offensively, that's defensively. But I think it gives us a really good script this week that we're running through all the scenarios that we've already installed, but kind of the final run throughs of who actually would be playing in a defensive replacement situation. And it's really nice to know we can count on everybody from the jump.
Yep, we'll go back here.
Coach, obviously, as you come into this program, taking over as a head coach, there are a lot of outside expectations. We've all seen the polls. I don't know how much, you guys pay attention to that, but when you come into the season and there are a lot of things expected of this program, how do you, as a first-year head coach here, manage those?
Yeah, I think it's something that I tried to get ahead of initially when the first couple polls came out. I think now, our guys are all on social media and they have to deal with all that. I think now, and kudos to Anthony and our whole PR team, but it's like, there's something new every hour. Like, honestly, it's so I think that's been good though, because it's gotten so dizzying. It's which acronyms ranking us here and who's preseason, player of the year. Burris has like 9 of them right now or something. I don't, but I do think it's been good to lose track of it. Because at the end of the day, the thing that we've set our sights on is Bowling Green. We finished, on Super Bowl Sunday. I honestly think it was our best scrimmage in every phase We scripted 3 different games of 2-inning, basically variety, and told the guys pregame to play with emotion. Act the way you're going to act when you hit a double, act the way you're going to act when you strike out the side. And that was the cool part of seeing this thing come together, is guys are actually walking it. And I think they're ready. So I think part of it is we're going to have to continue to protect ourselves from, we're either going to prove everybody right one way or the other. We're either going to be as good as we think we are the first 10 games this season. We're not going to win as many games, or the margin, if we go 10-0 and the margin's not 6 runs per game a win, then we're going to look at as staff, hey, we could be better. I think that's the cool part about the non-conference schedule. We play a tough schedule. We're playing a lot of quality in-state opponents. We don't just stay at home the whole time. So we're going to find out definitely, the things that we've done in a scrimmage setting, and see, that play against somebody else in between the white lines.
You mentioned a lot in previous interviews the importance of roster retention for this group. Do you feel that certain roster retentions came as a surprise? I know for us, we were looking at Mason coming back as a big bonus during the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, Patel, I said to our whole team that for me, like, it's a trust thing. And it's knowing that, if you're going to win or lose with Mason Patel on the mound, like, there's not a single person in the clubhouse. I hope there's no one in our fan base that ever says it's the wrong idea to give him the baseball. And so I think he came in and worked his tail off over the summer and did a good job dedicating himself in the weight room with Coach Tambora. And you saw the fruits of that labor pay off right away in the fall. At the end of the day, I mean, he's one of those heart and soul guys that when he chooses to show emotion, it's of the right variety. And when he chooses to stay stoic, it's always of the right variety. And so, that is a huge piece when you're talking about building a program to win championships. The pitching piece has to be at the focal point, and having a guy like that, hey, when it's nothing, and you win or lose on Friday, it's the old saying of momentum in your starting pitching, right? And to know that we have Patel, his name etched in there, and he's in the weekend rotation, it's a hat off to him, but it also gives our team a huge bump that when he takes the mound, we feel really good about our chances to win.
How important is it to have a guy like Will Baker on your team that can, come in, play second, third, right field? He can also, DH, because, somewhere along the line, there's liable to be some, injuries, slumps, that type of thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's not hyperbole to say we have probably 7 guys that played as good as anyone on the team, and Will Baker is firmly in that mix. The maturity of him coming in and, playing in Australia, he exposed himself to all the competition he could. He'd come over in the United States and play against elite competition. He played a lot for us as a freshman, and he played really well. But I think there was things that the speed of the game, the consistency side, playing 5 times a week. And then he goes to the Cape and stays up there the whole time, which for a position player, is not always the first thing on those guys' list, and worked really hard. And also he's really mature about approaching his at-bats. Like, you can talk to him on a really high level. And so, he definitely, is one of the big winners for us you're talking about a guy, once again, that started plenty for us. So we already knew kind of that there would be that natural progression. But I mean, man, it's been, hitting righties, hitting lefties, hitting hard, hitting soft, spraying the ball foul line to foul line. I think he's a guy that, we're crazy not to give every opportunity to play as much as we can and at different positions. Because I think if you look at, being strong through the middle of the field, you look at all the superstars we have in the middle, those guys could all go play a different position. And guess what? In a tight game, they may be playing other positions. In a game where the score kind of gets one way versus the other, you're going to see them slide to a secondary position. You're going to see Hernandez play the infield. You're going to see Invicula play short. You're going to see, maybe Kirsch roll over to third, or Zuckerman go to second. That's the fun part about this group. And Baker's one that his pro aspirations are going to be of a super utility nature, but he played shortstop last weekend a lot in scrimmages, and you would not know he is not an ACC starting shortstop with the level of play we're getting out of him in the infield. So Coach Schulman deserves a ton of credit. They've worked tirelessly at the defensive side, and he's made huge strides.
Thank you, Coach. Had a bit of a strange January in terms of weather here in Atlanta. We had ice storms, snowstorms, of course. Has that been affecting practice at all, or has there been a relatively usual turnaround for getting the guys back in shape for spring season?
Yeah, the weather has. It's kind of, just like this weekend, it's going to be what it is, right? we preach adaptability all the time. And yeah, we've had to. I mean, there's been times where, we have had to take 2 days off, and we don't like taking 2 days off back to back this close to the season. We were able to get back on a really normal schedule. And I think it was good for, there was one day where guys threw well, they maybe didn't throw their best. And it was a good, hey, we're not going to script all your outings out of the bullpen. I think the same thing was we had to play, I think it was 12 to 14 innings on one of the days before the ice storm kind of came in. And if we have to play a doubleheader early, that was kind of what we were preaching. We may, you guys need that workload, and you need to know you got to hydrate. You got to be smart in picking your spots. And, I think that's been the part that we've leaned on as a staff. There's always a positive side to some of that adversity. And I think the guys have been really mature about how they've gone about it.
Coach, you talked about the rotation, kind of having that set. Going into this first weekend early in the season, do you have a pitch count in mind, or how long you're going to let your starters go? And with that said, with the bullpen depth, do you have guys in certain spots, high stress spots, or just kind of matchup based?
Yeah, I think it's, you have two guys at the front that are older, that are experienced, that, I would say probably have a little less limitation than, a freshman trying to monitor some of that. On the flip side, we talk about planning for things, and we talk about scripting things, and we all sit back there and we want to make plans. And then there are certain things like positionally that we may script before the weekend. And not to say performance has zero to do with that, but you have, a certain number of games where you can sit there and do it. And then I promise you by week 3 in the ACC, everybody's going to be able to go max pitch counts, and they're going to be bounced back twice in a weekend. And so I would say right out of the gate, there's not anything out of the norm for us. I think we've been a good job about protecting it while also letting guys build on a gradual basis up to their maximum pitch counts.
All right, we'll go to Monty over Zoom here.
I got 2 questions for you real quick. Yesterday I tweeted out some of the parallels between you and Drew. Drew was named cap. He's going to wear the C just like you did at Florida State. Can you talk a little bit about how, that kind of came to be and how you're kind of mentoring him a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's more about Drew, right? He's been just incredibly special from the first time you start recruiting him. You realize that, listen, numbers are numbers, and there's nobody that's better at putting up numbers than him. But there's something to be said about he can handle so much more than your normal athlete can handle. That'd be the only thing that I have gone through the heavy draft scrutiny of ended up on the other side of being the best player in the country and being a first round pick. It's like, you have a little bit of that. And I loved it. I loved every bit of wearing the C. And when things got tough, when things are going good, it's finding a way to spread out the love. I think when things are not going good, there's nobody that our staff, that our players in the locker room trust more than Drew Burress. And so I think it was, it's something that I also don't take lightly, and it's you stay away from the always and the nevers, but it's, that's not in the laid plans of going to be an every year thing in this program. I think you have to prove it on the field and off the field. And if it becomes undeniable that you are that much of a leader and have that much of an impact, then you are able to wear the C on your chest. But I think for him, he's done such a good job with any other expectations he's had in his life. And he's so grounded that I thought it was just necessary to put him at the forefront. And he's well deserving of that 20 years from now, no different than myself, you're able to say, that is a really monumental thing. It probably meant more to me than a lot of the trophies that came along with it, is just to lead a group of guys that have your back, and to be able to win championships and end the season in the middle of the country.
Absolutely. And kind of going along with that, this time next year, Drew may be at spring training, likely will be at spring training for either minor league or major league. And he's not just the face of Georgia Tech. He's becoming the face of college baseball. There's tons of expectations, tons of individual accolades. And there's one goal that you guys have, but how are you helping him try to, enjoy this last season before it's, work time? How are there moments where you're like, Drew, take a step back, breathe this in, enjoy this moment?
Yeah, I think, to your question about just how do you handle squeezing every ounce out of this journey, I think we just have talked to the guys about whether it's gratitude or whether it's just family. I mean, when you got brothers in the clubhouse, you don't want to let them down. You want to enjoy it. But I think we've all had to, acknowledge it that, hey, this is a really special group. This doesn't come along very often. And I think that's been a reminder for all our guys. I mean, any draft eligible player, doesn't mean that they're going to be gone. It means they could be gone. And if you're a draft eligible player and you've got a chance for this to be your last season, you better take it for granted. I mean, I went into my junior year thinking that was probably going to be it. And then I was, brought to tears losing in a super regional in Tallahassee, and just, it wasn't as easy as that moment, but it was saying, these are the best days. And as many years as you might play in the major leagues, there is something special about playing college baseball and being a part of a group like this, especially when it's been built over multiple years.
All right, we'll close this out here with Rob.
Getting to the host of regional midweek games are pretty important, especially when you play, Auburn a couple times, you play Georgia. Have you decided, or has anyone stuck out to you as far as who you think you can put in that role as a starting pitcher?
Yeah, I think some of the guys I mentioned earlier all fall into that category. I think most ACC, SEC, or any conference coach, Sun Belt coach, are going to tell you that everything their season's based off of is paramount on winning weekend series. And so you're going to pour everything you can into that. There's times where you looked up last year and you'd have 3 or 4 of our best arms, maybe even 5 or 6 of them that were red, meaning they're absolutely not throwing in a Tuesday game. This team, I would like to think, can overcome that if that is the case. But I think reasonably, you're going to have a lot of guys helping each other shoulder the load. And, but no, I think going and elaborating on your question, the 4th game of a week, you start looking at it for us as the 4th game of a regional. And if you're playing the 4th game in a regional, it probably means your season's on the line. And so, if you look back up and you go, hey, if we would have had a guy go and throw several more Tuesdays and our offense would have played better on a Tuesday, and you win 1 of 3 one-run Tuesday games, whatever it was, you probably are hosting a regional last year. And so I think we'll continue to look at that. We're pretty forward-facing with analytics, and if the guy matches up well and he threw 32 pitches on Friday, then why not start him and extend him? You want to start with a lead, you want to extend leads, and then you want to be able to have some shutdown innings. So we'll spread it around. I told those guys, we met with a lot of guys, whether they weren't in the rotation. And my big message was, you're going to make starts. And I don't want to sit here and guarantee you the number you're going to make, but those Tuesdays, occasional Wednesday, a Thursday, we play 4 ACC series that have a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You always are challenged with, do we bump somebody up early? Do we stay on? And I think we're going to have all those answers that we piece together as a staff and think a lot through.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach.
All right, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.